White House Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney is facing opposition in his bid to join a lawsuit over testimony in the House impeachment inquiry. Mulvaney on Friday asked to sign on to a lawsuit asking a court to decide whether he must comply with a congressional subpoena. The lawsuit was brought by Charles Kupperman, Trump's former deputy national security advisor. Like Kupperman, Mulvaney has defied a subpoena from impeachment investigators, and the impeachment hearing, I guess it's just a hearing. Hearings will commence Wednesday.
The public hearings, and I think.
Yeah. So, and here to tell us whether they're barking up the wrong tree, full of constitutional nonsense or whatever, is Byron Henry, who practices a form of constitutional law up in the Metroplex. Thanks for being with us. So what do you make of all this?
Well, first of all, as the fact that it's not an impeachment hearing per se, because there haven't been articles of impeachment drafted and filed and pushed out of committee. So this is more of a, quote, investigation, which has basically been happening of President Trump and the administration since he was sworn in.
Yep.
But it's called an impeachment inquiry because supposedly this investigation, unlike others, is going to lead to an impeachment vote. But if you strip it away of politics and spinning and whatnot, this is another investigation of President Trump, his administration, and him himself about conduct in office. And this is something they've seized upon is that may be impeachable, so they're calling it an impeachment inquiry, which is nothing else than just further investigation.
So they now finally thought we have something that can probably lead to impeachment. Let's just call it an impeachment investigation and just make sure everybody says the word impeachment so Americans can think that that's the goal, that he is impeachable.
They want to impeach him.
That's right.
Well, they want to impeach him, though, right? I mean, that's been pretty clear.
Well, that's why they're calling it an impeachment inquiry, meaning that the end of this investigation is to impeach. It's like calling an investigation a murder investigation because someone died. So if you wanted to talk about the end process of this is an investigation with an aim toward impeaching it. But unfortunately, you shouldn't really prejudge the remedy before you actually get the facts. So if they already know the facts, they should impeach him. If they don't know the facts, you shouldn't really call it an impeachment inquiry because you don't know that there's going to be impeachment. Impeachment is a formal process under the Constitution and House and Senate rules whereby articles of impeachment are drafted, sent out by a committee, approved by the House, and then been voted on after an investigation. So this is, once again, it's putting the cart before the horse to call this an impeachment inquiry unless you already know, regardless of what comes out in the public, that you're going to vote to impeach.
But you know that they believe he's done many terrible things that merit impeachment.
Well, the only thing that this hearing is going to focus on is a phone call between him and
the president of Ukraine.
President of Ukraine. So if they think he's done other things, that's not what this public hearing in the, quote, impeachment hearing is about. This is about people who other people have told that the intent of the call was a quid pro quo. These aren't people that were on calls. These weren't people that actually formulated the policy. These are administrative officials that are told by someone else that they understood that the intent of this call was to put pressure on the president of Ukraine to open investigation into election interference and the Burisma or Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden's relationship with that company. So that's kind of where we are for this hearing. Now, there may be other things they want to throw in there later, but for now, it's simply about the Ukraine call.
Well, let me ask one more question to satisfy myself, if nothing else. There has been a lot of, in fact, Roxanne and I were talking about it, there's been a lot of stories recently and testimony by others in the administration, in Congress or to whomever, about the president really had this push on to get the people in Ukraine to do what he wanted them to do. They had a sort of separate foreign policy going with Ukraine, which is not illegal, I don't think. It's not illegal, done before, not uncommon. He just was determined to get them to do things because he believed Ukraine had been complicit in meddling with the election last time, that they...
something with the
so
server
then the phone
as well.
call, the phone call fits into that narrative stream. No, I don't know how else to ask the question because it's not a good question, but I think you know what I mean.
Well, we have tons of issues where quid pro quos or foreign policy or foreign aid. We have tons of issues where you have to move troops release prisoners, to get quid pro quos on foreign aid for action in the United States' interest is the way we do business. The only reason this is an issue, and the only reason, which is kind of odd, is that Hunter Biden is part of the so-called, the attack or the investigation on him, happens to be the son of a political rival. So what you're actually saying is, if it was anyone else, or if President Trump was already in his second term, so this wouldn't help him politically to get reelected, this wouldn't even be an issue, which is kind of an odd thing to impeach for, that it's fine to ask for this as long as it's not the son of someone that might run against you for president. That's basically the whole sum total of this case against President Trump.
I've heard other people say, it's illegal for foreigners to insert themselves in American national elections.
Which is crazy.
Can't do that. So here we have the president asking foreigners to insert themselves in an election. Now, I can answer my own question, but what do you think about that?
Well, hold on. To kind of springboard off of Davis, when it comes to that whole thing that it's illegal for somebody to ask foreigners to interfere in our election, is it just somebody already in public office? Is it the president? Because Hillary Clinton did just that. She asked, the whole Steele dossier is somebody from the UK to interfere in our election. So what's the difference?
Yeah, what if you can answer my question?
The
then
is,
the Steele, how is the Steele dossier paying a foreigner to do research work? How is that not a violation?
Of course, and it's very similar to doing investigative work. A foreigner doing investigative work that actually impedes our elections. It's different to hire a firm that happens to be foreign to do information and give it to you, and then you use it for an election purpose. It's different than asking the president of Ukraine to meddle in our elections. The problem is that President Trump asked the president of Ukraine to open a Ukrainian investigation of corruption in Ukraine. Whether that hurts or helps, for all President Trump knows, the investigation clears Hunter Biden, and it ends up helping Joe Biden. So he's not asking the president to interfere in our elections. He's asking the foreign president to do something that he should do anyway, and it may or may not end up benefiting President Trump in his election bid. It just depends. We don't know what the result of that election would be. So there's a difference there because, of course, government presidents are always allowed to investigate and protect their own country, regardless of whether the byproduct happens to help or hurt President Trump.
So when all this is, I don't know when it's going to be over. If it goes on too long, it works against the Democrats. It seems to me if it's a short, violent outburst that sullies the president, that's to their benefit. If it goes on too long, whatever that is, then it hurts them.
And I think they're planning it that way because they're planning on shutting down the ability of Republicans in the committees to do very much or call very many witnesses. So they're actually basically taking a hard line on the process and not letting the president's administration or Republicans have that many rights with respect to what they can do in order to keep it short and run the narrative that the Democrats would like to see come out of this hearing. The
fact that they're not going to let the Republicans, that they're not going to be even-handed or somewhat fairer, that previous attempts to impeach a president were even-handed, but the lore now being reported about how the Clinton one and the Nixon one, they did thus and so, and that's not going to hurt them? I don't think it will.
Yes, it's going to hurt the credibility of the process. Stories have already begun to hurt the impeachment inquiry. That's why they called it an impeachment inquiry and made it public, because they were getting slammed every day for having these secret basement depositions and not making anything public. So we already know the process is changing the strategy. The question is how much will it affect it? Not whether it will have some effect, but will it affect it enough to basically harm the numbers in the polls supporting impeachment?
Byron, can you kind of... I'm sorry for interrupting you. Finish your thought.
Oh, I just said we'll have to see how the polling does after Wednesday and Thursday.
Can you kind of clarify something up for me when it comes to the whistleblower and how there was a certain rule before they changed the rule that you needed to have firsthand experience of knowledge of a situation to be a whistleblower, and then they changed it before this. Can I say his name? It's already out there. Eric Ciaramella guy came out.
The snitch. That
now you can be a whistleblower with secondhand information, secondhand knowledge. Is that weird? Why do they do that?
It is a little bit odd, and I think it was designed because they didn't have firsthand knowledge. So the problem with not having firsthand knowledge as a whistleblower is that you needed the protection of indirect sources, is what they're called, not direct sources. And in order to protect him and to keep his relationship with the Democratic Party and Congressman Scheef secret, they changed it to allow for indirect sources to be considered whistleblowers, which isn't common. But it's not, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying indirect sources. It's just odd that the rules were changed to protect this one specific indirect source.
Did Scheef already have this information before the rules were changed?
Yes. What we believe is that we don't know when the contact started because most of that's being kept secret. We just know that there was prior contact with members of the committee, including Adam Scheef, before any of this became public, before we knew anything in the media or in the public the media reported anything, that he had contact and was basically guiding the process.
You have so many more questions.
30 seconds, then we got to go. It strikes me that what you just described is very clumsy to have fixed the rules to benefit themselves sort of after the fact. They made the rules fit the knowledge they have. It's very clumsy if we know the sneaky things they were doing. Why would they do it then? Were they just bad at what they're doing?
Well, we're going to learn even more when things become public in the IG's report, Inspector General report that comes out about the collusion. But as we remember, Adam Scheef was also the one who was going on weekly on the news reporting shows and then Sunday shows saying, I have evidence of direct collusion with the president and whatnot. And, of course, that turned out to be nothing. So that was pretty clumsy as well. So I wouldn't put that level of clumsiness past Congressman Scheef.
To answer kind of Davis's question, I'm thinking it's the Democrats. They have everybody behind them. They have the mainstream media. They have all this, the New York Times, all this publication.
People remember what Scheef did.
No, because all they're going to remember is impeachment, which is what Democrats want. So, Byron, we got to go. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. That's Byron Henry, our guest on 710 KURV.